The next thing I'm going to be teaching you is the command rotate. For that, you can actually first select the object and then select the command, or you can select the command and then select the object. It works either ways. So I just selected the objects first which I want to rotate, and then I click the rotate command. It's asking me to specify the base point, say this, and you see I can rotate this object however I want. Say I rotated it to this. Now I want to make it horizontal again. Of course I can use the command Ctrl+Z, but suppose I want to make this particular line horizontal in this object. How do I do that? Using the command rotate, I just select this, enter the command rotate, select this base point. So you see, no matter how hard I try, the polar tracking is not working. That's because this object is rotated on a different axis. So now I'm just going to have to enter a reference line. For that, you just press R and press enter. It's asking me to specify a reference angle. Say I specify the reference angle as this. Now I can rotate my object in according to this line, and now we have the object finally horizontal. That's how the rotate command works. The next command I'm going to be showing you is the offset command. Offset command is this small icon over here. This is my favorite command. I use it a lot. It helps to create concentric circles, parallel lines, and parallel curves. So I'm just going to select this, and it helps to create an offset. Say I want a similar rectangle inside this rectangle at a distance of say 300. So I specify the offset distance as 300 and I press enter. Now if I select this object and I hover my mouse inside this, another object is going to appear at a distance of 300 from the original one. And if I hover the mouse outside this object, it's gonna offset towards the outside. So I can offset rectangles, circles, and basically anything. I can even offset lines. For example, this particular line. If I use the offset command in this, we can also offset lines over here. I can offset it as many times as I want. The second thing I'm going to be showing you about the offset command is the command through. For example, I have a line parallel to this particular line, and I enter the offset command, and I just specify the offset distance as through. For that, I just have to enter T, enter, and it's asking me to specify the object, say this. Now I can select the object and I can specify the distance on my own, like this. So this is another use of the offset command. It's called through. So that's all about the offset command. The next thing I'm going to be telling you about is polylines. We already discussed polylines. I just entered the command for that, p-line. The offset command also works for polylines. Likewise, it works for basically any objects, but say this line is not a polyline, these are different lines. For example, I make a similar shape using lines, and then I try to offset this. I'm gonna have to offset it one by one. So just make sure that whatever object you are offsetting, if you want the complete offset of that object, it has to be a polyline or one singular object. And that's only when the offset command works. And the next thing I'm going to be showing you is the command trim. Let me just draw a figure. Let's say I want to trim these 3 lines, and I'm going to do it in one go instead of selecting this and then clicking this point, end point, and putting it here. It's going to be a tedious process. So instead I'm just going to use the command trim. For that, you can either go over here and click the command trim, or you can just enter TR, enter. Now my version of AutoCAD is AutoCAD 2022. If you're using versions below 2022, you're gonna just have to wait a little bit. And for people who are using AutoCAD versions of AutoCAD 2021 and above, they can simply trim this using these commands. You can hover over the lines and it's going to trim them for you. Now for the people who are using AutoCAD below the versions of 2021, don't fret. I'm just going to enter the command TR, enter. And for previous versions of AutoCAD, if you just enter T, enter, that's how the previous versions of AutoCAD work. So if you just enter the trim command, it's going to work like this. Say you're gonna have to select this object and these objects. You basically gonna have to select these objects, the object from which you want to trim, or the objects you want you want to trim. So I'm just going to select these 3 objects. I'm going to press spacebar again, and then I'm going to trim these objects. And that's how trim in AutoCAD earlier versions work. But I'm going to show you one of the useful things that the earlier version has. For example, I want to trim these particular lines over here, not these lines but the whole line. So for that, I'm going to have to select the line from which I have to trim and the lines which are to be trimmed. I'm not going to select this particular line. Now I just use this command. So you see, I don't have to trim this side and this side separately. It just trimmed on its own, the whole thing. It didn't consider this particular line while trimming. So that's what the previous versions, that's what the advantage of previous versions are. So that's how the trim command works.